I would say masterpiece.
I would say big time masterpiece. I know Felix would probably say boring.
Yeah, I'm like in the middle on it. I just was like yawning a lot in the theater, to be honest. I was getting kind of tired, and like people are like sitting in the audience like this, like fucking like.
Yeah, so today we saw a screening of the film Paris, Texas, directed by the wonderful Wim Wenders. This was a film that won the Palme d'Or top prize at Cannes and has become since such a cult film that people love and rediscover over and over again. And I guess we're discovering if it's a masterpiece or boring.
Yeah.
Which is fine, yeah.
I think, no, I can see how people think it's a masterpiece. I just think it's like a little boring, and I think like there's a lot of people who would like watch this movie and be like, holy shit, it's like so slow, and 2.5 hours for this story. It's just like I think I was just checking out a few times in it.
Yeah,
stuff.
but
I get that. I mean, it's his style to be very meditative and slow.
Yeah, it's definitely meditative.
Draw his stories out to like the max. What were you gonna say though?
you said you guess you can see why people think it's a masterpiece. Like, what do you mean? Why do you think people think it's a masterpiece?
But just like really shot well, and like the story is like very like personable, and everything's like really well done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like really like drawn out and shit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just yeah.
I know what you mean. I mean, I guess on a personal level, you know, I gravitate towards really personal films, and sometimes when they're very lighthearted and almost, you know, comforting, you know, I'm sometimes a really softy when it comes to films like this. So to me, it really deeply speaks to me, and you could say too. I know you love the movie, but there's certain points in this movie that really like transcend cinema to me, and it becomes like such a. We can get into specifics, but it becomes such a personal, revealing piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is the best way to say it.
It is revealing. It's very revealing. Just the way the story winds through like the different points, and it kind of reveals itself to you, and it's amplified through that like amazing acting that's on screen.
Oh yeah.
And the way it's shot is just so beautiful. It's so stylized. Like within the frame, the composition is just so nice to look at. You know.
Mm-hmm. It's like postcards. Like I always describe Robby Müller's cinematography. It's like it's capturing this sort of Americana like wasteland, but it's like it's almost inviting you in. It's like he's seen certain parts of America because what's interesting about this movie, it's made by like foreigners, by like German, you know, Dutch filmmakers that are like kind of making their personal statement, you know, about, you know, kind of this American landscape and the American dream and all that stuff. So visually, like, it's one of my favorite looking films of all time. Like exactly what you're saying about the warmth that every frame kind of exudes.
Mm-hmm. And then you get kind of into like, it's crazy how like it starts very open and like very like these like wide master shots of like Texas landscape, Americana, and then it ends with like this kind of neon, like, you know, dark like nighttime shot, and like just for like the later half of the film, that's what it turns into, and it's kind of you kind of go down and you get into like the dirtiness of the story once it's like revealed itself to you, and it gets dark, but you feel so rewarded when you get to that point. I think that last scene where it's the in the room, in the mirrored room, you know, that scene is just so fucking good, and it pays off the whole story. And I just remember the first time I saw that, I was kind of blown away by like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected in this movie, but this is like why people take this movie into their top, you know, like of ratings.
It really caps it off,
Yeah, that scene is really good. It's just like I've seen this movie twice now. I saw it like once like a year and a half ago with Jack and Antonio, and then like I saw it today, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll have like a new appreciation for it, because like I didn't really like it the first time I watched it. I gave it another chance. I've seen it twice now. I've seen it second time in the theaters, and like I thought maybe I'd feel like a different way about it, but I don't feel a different way. I still kind of, I don't know if I really discovered anything more. It was kind of just the same movie that I remembered watching, and then
the
ending, like it is a great scene. It's just like I remember even watching it the first time, and now watching it again, like I kind of forget like what the actual backstory is, because I kind of like was going in and out of sort of like consciousness, like paying attention to the scene. So I never actually knew, like I actually forgot why he left. And
yeah. But it's kind of hard to follow too, because it's you know, out of frame, you know, kind of voiceover shots.
It's all her reaction shots for the most part, yeah.
and they do fucking an amazing job, the actors, again.
Insane.
Like, so good, just like the subtle acting they're able to pull off. It's also a story where it's like, it's about like finding stuff beyond your actions, you know what I mean? Like it's like a story after the fact.
It is. Yeah.
And it's like kind of like a reconciliation of what happened, and you never really fully understand what happened. I feel like if it was structured where it's like we get that what happened at the beginning of the movie, it would be a completely different movie. This is a movie where it's about like it's kind of meandering like after the fact.
I want to go back to what Felix said though, because like I totally get where he's coming from, where it's like even seeing it a second time, you don't get that much out of it. But like,
I think you can just maybe like watch it once, but I gave it another chance, you know. So I've seen it twice, and I think that's like more than enough to like have a say about it.
For sure, and I get what you're saying, but like the reasons what you're saying about how you didn't get much out of it, that's actually kind of the simplicity of it is why I like it, because it is such a transparent, like digestible piece of filmmaking.
It's very, very linear.
Yeah, extremely, and like we said, like meditative, and like draws it kind of forces you to like draw your attention to like very abstract and slow character moments. And the construction of all of it though, like I think Wim Wenders, like amazing what you said though, like it's all of his movies are about like the in-between moments of life. Like the Road trilogy, Paris, Texas, and like Wings of Desire are like all movies about people that are dealing with some sort of trauma, grief, timeless themes, you know, regarding life. But they're all skipping like the big moments. They're like an Ozu movie that just kind of like skips the giant, you know, operatic, even some would say like cinematic moments that you would want to see on screen or other people would want to see on screen. And it's literally just about a guy who goes back to his brother and his son and then goes to find his wife. There's kind of like the aftermath of all the shit that he explains in the monologue. So I just think it's like, it's like, I don't know, it's like you're listening to an album or sort of a reflection of someone's experience, like in such a personal way. So that's why I relate to it, just because the whole conceit of the movie I think is really creative.
I think it's a really compelling character study too. Just on Living Guy, like just trying to, you know, get over this loss, and it's not clear until the end what the loss really was, but it's so interesting the way he like deals with it and just totally tries to like disassociate from society and feels like he kind of doesn't deserve to be a part of it and feels very guilty in a way, and then kind of healing from that trauma and like slowly re-entering society, slowly starting to be a person again, and like seeing him like heal in that way is like a very compelling cathartic story for me, you know. Like I can see why a lot of people resonate with this film, because it's not a film about like the terrible things you've done. It's a film about like kind of healing.
The reconciliation with that, you know. And like I love this movie too, because like it's a movie I noticed on this watch that like no one ever raises their voice or makes a very grandiose sort of speech or anything that you'd see like in a typical Hollywood, you know, 80s drama. The people in this movie are so inviting. The characters are so, you know, empathetic and understanding towards each other, even though like it's pretty drastic, you know, things that occur, you know, him being away for 4 years and like abandoning his kid and, you know, his wife leaving the kid too. It's almost like Wim Wenders. I always see like his movies are like, it's a viewpoint of the world that he wishes, you know, humans would treat each other, you know, in a certain way, you know, in this movie. So, and again, like a very wholesome look at the world that I personally just really like to see on screen. So
the first time I saw it, and this time as well, but maybe it wasn't as shocking, but the most shocking thing for me is when the kid just leaves his adopted family, and it was only 3-4 years of his life that he was with them, but like he just leaves his brother and his brother's wife to go back to his mother, you know, and you know he's calling them dad and mom already. Like they clearly have very formative years with him. He goes to school around there and like totally uprooting his whole life to go be with his mother again, which is, you know, it makes sense, you know. I always thought that was such an interesting choice to just, that's the end of their storyline. The brother and the wife are just, you know,
cut out.
Yeah, they're just cut out. That's like the last scene you see of them is them crying like, our son left, you know, and that's like really tragic, and I remember that sticking with me. And then this one, I think it is tragic, but I almost have a new appreciation for, he finds his mom again. you know, he's like reunited with his mom, and like the healing process is like a little more clear for me now, you know.
Yeah, definitely the stuff with the son was definitely got me feeling a certain type of way.
Mm-hmm.
Just like living with like different parents and stuff, and kind of like not knowing like who your dad is and shit, and like the kid is so good in it too.
Amazing act. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's so good.
Amazing child performance.
Yeah, crazy. I would be so scared trying to get a performance like that from a kid, but
it's tough. It rarely works out that way, but it's insanely good. Yeah.
And it's interesting that like Wim Wenders, who's associated with the new wave German cinema, like he chooses like a story like this, which is a very Americana, like American desert, like Western, and I think it's so cool. They present these cities. Like LA, like you don't associate like LA, even though it isn't a desert, you don't like associate it with the desert, but everything in this movie is like takes place in sort of like a desert. It's actually not like Houston is like desert, like in the beginning it's desert, like LA it's like desert. It's like the outskirts of LA,
yeah,
their house is like in a mountaintop overlooking like a desert, and then like the airport, which again, like I feel like is a very, maybe like we don't see this part of America like as we probably see it differently than Wim Wenders. It's like it's just weird. He probably thinks like it's odd that you guys live in between all these deserts, and you know. Yeah,
it's like an outside perspective on America from like a German guy, because like Rainer Werner Fassbinder is doing like just super. It's very like what's going on in Germany at the time, and like everything's about like Germany and like contemporary society and like how the war has affected them and the economy and everything. And you know, you also have like Werner Herzog, who does his own like sort of like this survivalist like aesthetic that he does, or like people taking on grand missions. Like they're very like ambitious characters, whereas Wim Wenders is like a very like more personable story. It's like way more simple and like everyday life type shit compared to like the other two major figures.
Well, I mean, they all kind of come up after the fact of like World War II, right? Like the traumatic thing that happened in Germany and just totally decimated Europe, and they all have different takes on like how you move on from that. And I think it's very interesting that
it's true.
They all deal with, in a sense, moving on from tragedy.
Yeah.
And I guess Wim just chooses like a kind of more like optimistic outlook.
Yeah, optimistic and personable. It's like Fassbinder you mentioned, like he's very much like a neo-realist sort of filmmaker in a way. Because movies are very heightened, but they deal with really real world issues. Yeah. Wim Wenders, like his movies are all like.
Did Wim Wenders come from theater? You know,
I'm actually not sure.
Because like just like Bob Fosse, like Fassbinder came from theater. You know, so his shit is like way more like theatrical.
They are
like bigger emotions, like way more acting going on. Whereas Wim Wenders is way more.
They're dialed back. Yeah,
way more subtle with the acting. And shit.
I always found it fascinating. His movie, a lot of his movies are depicting like road trips. Like he has the whole Road trilogy. Which are all great films in my opinion.
What are they?
It's Alice in the Cities, a movie called Wrong Move, which also features Nastassja Kinski, and then Kings of the Road, which I actually haven't seen yet, but like they're all just kind of like these cross-country trips in Europe. Kind of similar to Paris, Texas, you know, they're very meditative and just kind of someone stuck between, you know, like an impasse of their life, or they're definitely worth checking out if you especially if you like Paris, Texas and that sort of style that he has. But also like his documentaries later on and Wings of Desire, he's just always been like.
I do want to see Wings of Desire.
One of my favorite directors.
I do want to see Wings of Desire.
Wings of Desire is good.
I'm not so sure on like the Road trilogy. Like I'll eventually probably watch it, but it's not like on a list or anything.
I want to see The American Friend.
I didn't even mention that. That's my favorite Wim Wenders movie actually.
And The End of the World.
Until the End of the world.
Fuck. Oh, that's a fucking road trip movie.
That is.
I hear about that. It's like
that's 4 hours, dude. I think that's
Oh god.
Who's in that? Some famous Hollywood actors in it.
Is it like Kevin Costner?
No, it's I'm
blanking.
I'm blanking so hard.
Face, dude.
It's he was in Broadcast News. I think it's William Hurt. Yeah, the king of the road trip genre. If you're into that.
Yeah.
American Friend, I want to recommend to everyone. I think is a masterpiece. Like I even like it more than Paris, Texas. It's like.
Wow.
It is such a cool neo-noir, like, sort of thriller. Dennis Hopper's incredible in it, too. So
Crazy?
Yeah, dude. He's recruiting, like, Bruno Gaines to become an assassin. Because Bruno Gaines has cancer and has...
R.I.P. Bruno Gaines, legend.
A legend, amazing. And they just have this dynamic where they start doing these jobs together, and gets so fucking dark. Nicholas Ray's in it, and Sam Fuller shows up. It's such
That's
it's
weird.
such a fucking
Okay.
it's such a cool movie.
Okay.
Paris, Texas, also a fantastic film in my opinion.
Yeah. Me too.
And then also in the
Also, yeah, people thought it was the fucking funniest movie they've ever seen in their life.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was one guy who was like croaking like a frog in the theater.
It
People were like, "Oh my god, he fell over."
was like one person, though, like one or two people, and it's like, dude, this is not like it's not like a fucking comedy.
No, it's
I
not.
I don't
dude.
get that. I feel like I always have the theory that people, when they see like art films, they want people to know that they understand when a director like goes for a joke or like has a little sense of humor, so they laugh extra loud. It's like, haha, I understand that Wim Wenders is funny or David Lynch could be funny.
Yeah,
Because I've experienced that so many times. And I'm just
God.
very jaded by it at this point.
like the part where he eats the ice and then he's like, "Ooh," and then falls over.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah,
That's not even
people were
physical
cracking.
comedy. Like, he's literally dehydrated, about to die. And,
Yeah.
like, there's whimsical moments, but I've never laughed out loud in fucking Paris, Texas. Like,
Yeah.
That's a wild thing.
Like
Yeah.
when the wife shows up and like gives him a kiss,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, they're like, oh, he doesn't know how to do it. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if they're...
first time I saw it, I was like, I feel bad for this guy. And
He's
then, like,
emotionally
people
stunted.
are laughing at it
Yeah.
so much. Like, I don't know.
It's not, like, going for the absurd laugh, I feel like. I think it's just... It's realism, and I think people are just...
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P., dude.
One of my favorite actors to ever live. I mean...
So good in there. Like,
Inland
really
Empire.
carries it.
Inland Empire, and working with David Lynch, Alien... He was in a film called Lucky right before he died. That's a fantastic film. He was just
Really?
Repo Man, like he's
shit.
just one of the greats.
I gotta see Repo Man.
Repo.
Alex Cox. I love Walker though.
He's such a good...
Walker's great too.
He's such a good, like, subtle actor. Like, he's so talented at just, like, conveying, like, the subtlest emotion on his face and, like, really carries a scene. And Dean Stockwell, too. Like, fucking
Amazing.
So good at this, too. Like,
Amazing.
Just plays his part perfectly, you know?
Nastassja Kinski is like she was like she did so many fantastic movies during this era too, but like this performance she gave is like next level, and it's only like 2 scenes she's in.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
Yeah, she's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
absolutely, like so pretty.
Yeah, amazing.
I've been wanting to watch a Geary Wrath of God, but it's it doesn't have closed captions on Tubi and shit.
Really?
It has like dubbed over.
That's an issue.
Yeah,
I would watch that anytime. I love that movie.
Do you own it?
No, I need to get it.
I like Fitzcarraldo.
Fitzcarraldo's great.
And the documentary about Fitzcarraldo, The Burden of Dreams.
Burden of Dreams.
It's like even better than the actual movie. It's like he like literally had to do what he did in the movie in real life.
Yeah.
To make the movie. It's insane.
It's a similar like Apocalypse Now, Heart of Darkness situation where it's like the bootstrap they had to do to make that movie. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Like Klaus Kinski said, Klaus Kinski was with the lead the stat when they're in the middle of the jungle, and Werner Herzog's like, I got this rifle right here. It's got 6 bullets. I'm gonna put 5 of them in you, and then I'm gonna shoot myself in the head.
Like that's
what he said to Klaus Kinski, because Klaus Kinski is like such a hothead, like such a hothead actor, but
he's a maniac.
He's so good that he's just so hard to work. He's just so hard to work with.
Really, he's a crazy looking dude.
Yeah. He was crazy. He was,
but one of the greatest actors ever, probably. I mean, like his collaboration with Werner Herzog is like
Nosferatu the vampire.
God.
But did he play Nosferatu?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
He's like,
You look like the xenomorph from Alien doing that shit.
Yeah.